Most people believe success has a price, but very few people understand what that price actually is. Many imagine the price is long hours. Others think it's talent. Some think it's connections. But the truth is far less glamorous. The real price of success is often something people try desperately to avoid: failure. Today we're exploring a powerful insight from Walter Brunell. Failure is the tuition you pay for success. Think about that word for a moment. Tuition. When you go to college, you don't complain that tuition exists. You expect it. You understand it's the cost of learning. Yet when failure appears in life, most people react very differently. They panic. They feel embarrassed. They assume something has gone terribly wrong. But what if nothing has gone wrong? What if failure is simply the tuition bill of growth? Not punishment, not humiliation, just payment for knowledge. In this video, we're going to explore a deeper idea: why failure is not the opposite of success. It's the education system of success. And once you truly understand that, failure stops feeling like a setback. It starts feeling like progress. Why success requires payment. Nothing valuable in life is free. Not knowledge, not mastery, not confidence. Every meaningful achievement requires payment. Sometimes that payment is time. Sometimes it's discipline. And very often, it's failure. Failure is expensive because it costs something emotional: pride, expectation, comfort. But that cost is precisely what makes the lesson powerful. Think about the difference between two types of learning. One is theoretical. You read a book about leadership. You understand the ideas intellectually. But the other is experiential. You lead a project, you make mistakes, you misjudge people, you struggle. And suddenly the lessons become unforgettable. Why? Because the brain remembers what it paid for. Failure burns information into memory. That's why the quote calls it tuition. Because tuition buys understanding. The education system of real-life school teaches us something misleading. It suggests that failure is something to avoid. You fail a test, you lose points. You feel like you did something wrong. But real life operates under a completely different system. In real life, failure is not a punishment. It's a feedback mechanism. Entrepreneurs launch products that fail. Athletes lose competitions. Scientists run experiments that produce negative results. And yet those failures are not useless. They are information. Each failure answers a question. What doesn't work? What needs adjustment? What skill must improve? Without failure, progress becomes slow. Because without feedback, improvement becomes guesswork. Failure accelerates learning. It shortens the distance between ignorance and understanding. And that is exactly what tuition does. It speeds up education. The hidden value. Inside mistakes. Most people see failure only on the surface. A failed project, a missed opportunity, a rejected idea. But underneath that moment lies something incredibly valuable: clarity. Failure reveals what success hides. When things go well immediately, people rarely analyze deeply. But when something fails, attention sharpens. Questions appear. Curiosity awakens. People start asking, what assumption was wrong? What skill was missing? What system needs improvement? This process transforms failure into insight, and insight is the raw material of expertise. Experts are not people who never failed. They are people who paid tuition many times and kept the lessons. Every mistake purchased knowledge. Every setback funded growth. Why people fear the tuition. If failure is so valuable, why do people avoid it? Because tuition hurts, not financially, emotionally. Failure challenges our identity. It makes us question our competence. It exposes our limitations. And humans naturally try to avoid discomfort. But avoiding failure has a hidden cost. It limits experience. It reduces experimentation. It keeps people in familiar territory. And growth rarely happens in familiar territory. Imagine someone who refuses to pay tuition. They want education without cost. That person never enrolls, never studies, never graduates. In the same way, people who avoid failure avoid the classroom of life, and the result is stagnation. Progress requires enrollment, and enrollment requires tuition. The compounding effect of failure. Here's something fascinating about failure. It compounds, but not in the way most people expect. Most people think repeated failure means repeated defeat. But when failure is treated correctly, something different happens. Each failure adds information. Information improves strategy. Better strategy increases probability of success. Over time, the lessons accumulate, and eventually, success emerges. But by the time success arrives, it's no longer accidental, it's engineered. Behind every visible success story lies invisible tuition. Years of mistakes, experiments that didn't work, ideas that failed, skills that had to be rebuilt. Success may appear sudden, but the tuition payments happen quietly over time. The psychology of productive failure. There are two ways people respond to failure. The first is emotional. They feel shame. They interpret the failure as personal. They withdraw. The second is analytical. They treat failure like data. They ask questions. They refine strategy. They try again. The difference between these two responses determines everything. One approach turns failure into a wall. The other turns failure into a staircase. Productive failure requires one crucial mindset shift. Instead of asking why did I fail? Ask, what did this failure teach me that success could not? That question transforms frustration into curiosity, and curiosity turns every setback into an education. Paying the tuition without losing confidence. There is one challenge with failure. Too much of it can damage confidence. So how do successful people pay tuition without losing belief? They separate outcome from identity. They don't say, I failed, therefore I'm incapable. They say, that strategy failed, therefore I learned something. Identity remains stable. Strategy evolves. This distinction protects confidence. It allows people to continue experimenting without feeling personally attacked by outcomes. Confidence then becomes something deeper than success. It becomes trust in the learning process. Trust that every tuition payment brings them closer to mastery. The investment mindset. Here's the final idea. Failure only becomes valuable if you treat it like an investment. Tuition without learning is wasted, but tuition with reflection is transformation. After every failure, ask 3 simple questions. What worked? What didn't work? What will I change next time? These questions convert experience into wisdom, and wisdom compounds over time. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing failure because you recognize it, not as punishment, not as humiliation, but as progress, proof that you are still in the classroom of growth. And the people who stay in that classroom long enough eventually discover something powerful. Success is not reserved for the lucky. It is earned by those willing to keep paying the tuition. So, the next time something doesn't work out the way you hoped, pause for a moment. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask a better question. What is this teaching me? Because according to Walter Brunell, failure is not the opposite of success. It's simply the bill that arrives before success graduates, and those who are willing to pay it eventually earn the degree.